Literate Discussions with M. David Hornbuckle.
Welcome to another episode of Literary Discussions. Today we'll be talking to Halley Cotton, a writer and adjunct professor at UAB. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's well. How are you?
Good. So we're going to talk about Robert Frost today.
Sounds good to
Awesome.
me.
So, a lot of people read Robert Frost pretty early, at least some of the poems you might read in middle school even. Is it the accessibility that makes them popular?
I think it's the accessibility, but also, so when you look at, poets previous, when you look at people like Wordsworth and Coleridge and, Byron, you've got these people in these elevated places in these lush and ancient countrysides that have like these really far off grandiose ideas. And then we look at someone like Frost, who really just likes to wander through the woods and be a quiet observer of the things around him, right? So he's writing about a woodpile and the glory of a woodpile. It's not the jocund daffodils, upon that eye, right? It's
Right.
going out and, talking about apple picking and just the beauty of the moment, right? And it's something that I think many people can identify with because they have these sorts of experiences.
Would you say there's a kind of romanticism in the way that he writes about nature?
Yeah,
even though
absolutely.
it comes way after what we think of as the Romantic period, but he seems to be kind of a throwback to that approach in a lot of ways.
It really does. So, and looking at the nature poems, it's definitely like elevating nature a little bit, like going out and apple picking is, and that's one of the ones that I just read to like refresh myself on, because as a child I used to go out and apple pick, and it seems great and wonderful. You get like apple pies and all kinds of wonderful things from apple picking, but it's also like the weary tiredness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get the imprint of the rung on the arch of the foot. And I think in even those moments of like weariness and pain, we still look at it and we go, oh, I want that pain. I don't want the pain that I've had and experienced. We're going to romanticize that pain. We're going to elevate that pain.
Cool. Do you have any favorites from this selection that we have? Which one?
Do. Apple picking is one. I really love Out Out. Of course, you have to love The Road Not Taken, right? Like, I think that's, if you're reading Frost, it's definitely one of the first ones you're going to go to, but I think of all of them, Apple picking is my favorite.
Yeah, I think The Road Not Taken is possibly the most famous one, the most read poem by him.
Right.
In fact, it's so often read that I think that I called it The Road Less Traveled earlier because that's a line in the poem, or
Right.
part of a line in the poem. It's often misquoted, often misinterpreted probably as well.
Well, people just remember the first line, 2 roads diverged
Right.
in a yellow wood. And we're like, okay, yeah, it's also, I've got this edition of Robert Frost, so it's the select poems.
Okay.
But that's like the entirety of the back is just
Right.
the poem. And yeah, like how many of us can actually like recite it? We were made to recite it. I was made to memorize it. But I can't tell you what most of the lines are, only that 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood and I took the one less traveled by.
But yeah, it's a poem that I guess I've read so often that I don't even think about what it means all that much anymore.
Right? Out Out's the one that really gets me, right?
The buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard and made dust and dropped stove-length sticks of wood, sweet-scented stuff when the breeze drew across it. So already I'm being struck by the sound devices being used in those first lines.
Mm-hmm.
And all the S sounds that reflect the sound of sawing.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the kind of thing that a poet like Frost is really aware of when he's writing.
Right? And when you even look at it, like the title, Out, Out, you've got the repetition. So it kind of sets us up for that, the buzz saw, snarled, and rattled. So you've got those double sounds all through it. The sweet scented stuff when the breeze drew across it, right? So it's all these double vowels and double consonant sounds that really just kind of not only reach across the lines, but also reach across further lines, right? Like it lines it up throughout the entire poem, which is just one stanza.
One really long stanza, as stanzas go.
But it drags us
lines.
through. It drags us through the poem when you have just one stanza like that, right? So if you have something like couplets, you look for the break. But with one stanza, it kind of stacks everything up on top of each other, and we've got some pretty radical enjambment. So that happening to the buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard and made dust and dropped stove-length sticks of wood, it just keeps pulling us through. We do have some end punctuation, but a lot of it is just like, what's the ending? What are we getting to?
So yeah, that's something that probably a lot of like 200 level students don't think a lot about, is enjambment and punctuation in poetry and how that affects your interpretation of it. Do you have more to say about that?
Just that you have your audience when you're messing with the way they breathe, right? So poetry is both a visual art. We're intended to see it on the page, but it's also something that is meant to be audio, right? So you get two different experiences based off of when you read it on the page and when you read it out loud. And when you read this out loud, it just keeps pulling you through, right? You keep running up against those sounds, and those sounds run into other sounds and are so connected that by the time we're through, we get to the end of the poem and we don't realize that we've been holding our breath a little bit throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you try to do those tongue twisters, like Peter picked a peck of pickled peppers, right?
Right.
You're moving so fast through the sounds that you're like, where do I take a breath? And this poem has that same quality to it, I feel, at least. Because then we get to the hand, right? The hand's been cut, and oh man. After that, it's just like, oh no, what do we do? What do we do? It's very suspenseful.
But the hand, it's dramatic. Right after that in the book is Fire and Ice, which is one that my high school students often memorize because it's so short.
Fire and ice. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From whatever I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. That is good. It's very short, very brief, but it contemplates desire, it contemplates mortality, destruction, and it really makes you think, like, which would I prefer? And I can't say I would choose either.
Yeah. I tell you what, I know how you feel about cold weather, so I don't think that you would choose ice.
I definitely would not choose ice, but I can't say that I would opt to perish in fire. Maybe I would perish in fire. I don't know. I always have this feeling that, if I were to die by anything, it would probably be like drowning or something like that. I don't know. Tornado.
I think being torn apart by wild animals might be more interesting. Be like squirrels or something, eaten by squirrels.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
To be like set upon by squirrels, that would be something.
Yeah. So, what other poems stand out to you from this group that you would want to say something clever about?
We can talk about The Pasture. That one's really nice and simple.
Yeah, let's talk about the past. Let's talk about The Pasture.
Yeah, 85. All right. The Pasture. I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the water clear. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's so young. It totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too. So in looking at this, we've got 2 quatrains, so 2 stanzas of 4 lines, and we've got a bit of a rhyme.
Oh, in my version, it's only 1 stanza of 8 lines.
Oh, really? My version.
Huh. And this one, I don't know if you can see it.
Interesting.
8 lines.
Huh. Well, even if you don't have the stanza break, if you look at it, so we've got the first line is going to be an unrhymed line, but the next 2 lines are rhymed with each other, away and may, and then I shan't be gone long, you come too, right? Mm-hmm. Then the next line, I'm going out to fetch the little calf, is also unrhymed, but the 2 after that are rhymed, young and tongue. And then we've got the repetition of the I shan't be gone long, you come too, which links us back to the prior. In my stanza, in your case, just the earlier part.
It almost feels like a shortened form of a villanelle, kind of.
And I can absolutely agree with that. I think I prefer the editor's choice within this edition to have it in the 2 stanzas. I don't know what the editorial decision was to have it as 1 stanza in your edition, but that just goes to show you that poems are alive, and poets like to fiddle with poems after they've been published in different places. So maybe this came from an earlier or a later iteration of Frost than what you have.
It could also be a mistake. You know, it's an 1800-page anthology. I bet there are some typos in it.
Right. Yeah, and then the repetition of the I shan't be gone long, you come too. So we've got that idea of going from the I'm going out to do this, I'm going out to do that. Oh, you come too. And the I'm going out to do this, I'm going out to do that. Oh, you come too. And if we look at the stanzas, they actually mirror one another. I'm going out to do whatever. I'm going out. Then we have the second lines of each. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away. That's standing by the mother, it's so young, right? So it adds to the second line of each stanza adds and furthers the idea of the first line. The third line of each stanza, and wait to watch the water clear, I may. It totters when she licks it with her tongue, right? It's an action of the thing that you've gone out to see, or the thing that you've gone out to witness. So it is like a call and response. I'm going out to do this, and then this thing shall respond to my action. And then the fourth line is, of course, mirrored from both stanzas. I shan't be gone long, you come too. It's including the you in on all of this. It's also, a command, but it's also like a supplication, like, please come and do this thing of which I am also doing. Let us go out into nature, let us call out to nature, but then also let us witness the response. So I think, like, I love that, right? It seems like such a simple poem, and it is, but it's definitely working. It does a lot in such a small, tight space.
Yeah, and I think that you can say that of a lot of his poems. Even his longer poems are very efficient in their use of language.
Right? Well, and when you think about it, nature in and of itself is efficient, right? Like, nothing goes to waste, everything is used. But also, when you look at nature, a lot of what people pick up on is like cyclic ideas, things that are cycled through, things that are like seasons, things that are repetition, right? So by using the mirrored stanza like this, he is also engaging with the idea, with the tropes of nature.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a good idea to end the conversation on. Thanks for spending some time with me today.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And talking about poetry. And we'll see you soon.
All right. Awesome. Take care, Marbuck.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Literate Discussions with M. David Hornbuckle.